Hello, this is Bill Webb, aka Billy Indiana. Today I'm going to be doing a 3x3x3 review for Viticulture World. This is the new expansion for Viticulture the Essential Edition by Stonemaier Games. And I'll be talking about three things I like about this expansion, three things either I didn't care for or I could see other gamers not enjoying, and then giving you at least three recommendations of other games you might want to consider if you like this style of game. If you're curious to see my thoughts, stay tuned. Before I get into my review of this expansion by Mihir, Shah, and Francesco Testini with art by Andrew Bosley, I want to give you a little bit of an idea about what the components are that come in this expansion, how it changes the game, and a general flow of some of how the game works. So if you've played Viticulture, you know that the game revolves around worker placement, and you're trying to plant fields and grow grapes in those fields, and then harvest those grapes, and then squish the grapes and make the wines and sell the wine. And then you're trying to earn victory points by selling those wines and accomplishing other goals throughout. Well, in this expansion, it turns that into instead of a competitive version to a cooperative version. And there's an extra track on here. So this is the same basic victory point track that you can see here with these purple circles. However, there's this new influence track right here. And in a cooperative version, every player has to reach this 25 victory points to win. And then this also has to reach the 10 on the influence track. And I just finished my most recent solo play of this. I was going through the Asia. So I'm not going to reveal anything about this, but this is the stack of cards for Asia. And there are 7 continents, 6 actual continents, and then Green Gully from the Charterstone game. And then there's actually, if you buy the game, a promo pack, a secondary version of the Green Gully that makes it even easier. I think that's really highly recommended if you're playing with people who aren't really familiar with cooperative games or maybe haven't played Viticulture before, or not very much. It's almost a guaranteed win if they have much experience at all, or if there's at least some players in the group that can kind of guide that process. But basically, the way the game works is you're going to play just like Viticulture in terms of getting the fields, planting the grapes, doing all that, making the wine, selling them. But you have the opportunities at times, if your grande worker, your bigger worker, ends up being at a space where somebody else's worker's at, you can trade things. You could trade money, you could trade cards, and those cards and those money trades might enable you as a group to accomplish the victory points and the influence you need to be successful. However, you're going to be having these cards flip over one at a time every year, and we've got this new year tracker over here. And each year it's going to provide different advantages. So it depends on the continent. So for instance, I won't spill too much on the other continents. So I'll talk mainly about Green Gully because I don't want to give any spoilers. But for instance, in Green Gully, when you flip them over, it'll have a new worker placement space. So instead of just being able to put your workers out here in these worker spaces, you'll have a new one for that round. And then the next round, you flip another one over, and it just gives you a new worker placement position to go to. When you use that Green Gully continent, it does nicely kind of guide you through your first play, almost as a tutorial play. I think it's really good for the first play. Every player is going to have their player board, just like in regular Viticulture, but you start with 4 basic and 1 grande worker to begin with. Another difference is they're going to start with these little hats. So this is one of my winter workers with the blue hats. And then there's some yellow hats. And some of my workers had these yellow hats. These are the summer workers on at the beginning of the game. But there's a place where you can get rid of the hats, because if they have a yellow hat, they can only be used in the summer. And these are the 8 actions you can use in the summer. And if they have the blue hats, they can only be used in the winter. But if you train them, you can take the hats off, and then they can work in either place. Your grande worker, which mine is right here, is just a bigger worker, allows you to go to a space where there are already other workers present. And it never needs a hat, so it can play in summer or winter either way. There are also, if you play solo, different cards, and the solo I would say is really a nice, easy, streamlined version. So it's got this on the one side. Buratino, I think, is the name of the solo player that's actually working with you, cooperating. Now, it's an AI, so sometimes their cooperation ends up being more of a pain than a help. Because it's basically blocking off spots where you're either going to have to use your grande worker to go there, or Buratino is going to have to pay 2 lira to remove a worker so that you can go there. So, but they also do help. So you can go with your Grande worker and meet Buratino and trade cards, and they can actually help you gain influence points and things like that. So there is a help, but it's really nice. You just flip it over, they gain 3 lira, and then you put the workers in this pattern. So this was the most recent one, and so you can see I was using white for them in the winter, and so I just have these two don't have a worker, these two spots, and then these two do, so here and here, and then here and here. And so it's really easy to use the Automa if you want to play solo, and it's still a cooperative mostly. It's not that the Buratino is antagonistic, but sometimes they do get in each other's way. But that's going to happen in a cooperative game with other players as well. There's limited spaces to go. And so depending on player count, you may only be able to put 1 worker in each of those spots or 2. Now the other big change in this expansion are the innovation tiles. And there's a big stack of these rectangular ones. And then there's also a big stack of these oval-shaped ones. And they end up at the beginning of the game being turned over in these spots, and they refresh every round. So we might have something like this. And you can go here to pay lira to put these innovation tiles out. And you can see I've got an innovation tile here and an innovation tile here, and they just upgrade that worker placement spot. So for instance, this one says draw 3 vine cards and choose 2 to keep, then gain a wine or a grape. And then underneath it is just draw a wine card. So it's a huge upgrade. And so you want to get these innovation tiles purchased and put out. These oval ones go underneath, and some of the oval spots, if I were to put it here, hopefully you can see this little 2 grape here. If I put that there, pay to place it, I would gain 2 grape. Everybody would actually gain 2 grape. And also the oval spaces make it possible for multiple workers to go there instead of only 1 at a 2-player count or 2 at a higher player count. And so those oval innovations benefit you as well. Then once they're there, like this one, let's say that these had already been placed. Every time I send a worker here that's trained, doesn't have a hat on any longer, they're going to gain an extra lira just for going there. Anytime I send a worker here that's trained without a hat, they would get this bonus. The arrow points which direction it should go. Now, you may notice I had put this here, which points there. You can't use the winter pointing to the summer advantages, but I had to put that there just for another reason in gameplay. And I don't want to spill the beans on why. Normally it's got a line underneath, so you can't flip it and make it point that way. The line underneath shows you that it has to be positioned this way. So I was basically losing that advantage, which wasn't that big a deal, but I needed to be able to put 2 workers there without using a grande for some other reason. So other than that, I think those are the primary changes. The innovation tiles, you've got this event deck that's guiding it. You got a unique Automa that helps you play solo if you want. You've got the year track, and then this extra track down here that you have to accomplish both your victory points and your influence to be successful. Other than that, if you've played Viticulture, it's a really easy transition into. And another thing with the Automa, there are some nice player aids here that sort of show you exactly the flow that you use with that automated cooperative worker. So that's a very quick overview, not a full rules teach, but just to kind of give you a little bit of a feel about what's a basic idea of the game, and then what are the changes from base Viticulture with this Viticulture World cooperative expansion. So now let's go to the review portion of the video. So as I mentioned in these reviews, I like to give you 3 things that I really enjoy, 3 things that didn't care for, I could see other players maybe not enjoying, and then give you at least 3 recommendations of other games that have a similar feel. So first, let's start off with what did I really like about Viticulture World. Now, I'll spill the beans a little bit because I really like Viticulture. It's in my top 20 games of all time. And I love cooperative games, and so does my wife. And so I thought this would be a pretty big hit, and it actually has been terrific for us. The first thing that I'll mention, there's a lot of things I could say, but I'm trying to limit myself to just 3 things. So the first thing is there are a variety of scenarios and difficulty levels that you can use. So not only are these innovation tiles going to come out randomly, so looking at these things, they're going to come out randomly every game, but you've got the 7 continents, and you can play them in order. So you've got the 6, and there's actually 8 cards in each continent. Well, there's more cards than some for other reasons, but there's 8 event cards. And you can either just play through the first 6 as a 6-year game, or you can take all 8 and shuffle them together and put them in so you would get a random assortment of 6. And so there's variety even within those continents on when the events might come out if you want to play it that way. And like I said, the innovation tiles are going to be randomly spawning. And then because these innovation tiles are going to be different every game, where you can go with multiple workers and which ones you want to get when, and just everything's going to change every time you play this, even if you replay the same continent. And there's 7 different continents, and the continents are wildly different, not only in difficulty level, but how they work. So like I said, the green gully, it focuses mainly on putting a card down, which gives you another place to place your workers. But in the Asia one, which is the one I just played this morning, it doesn't have worker placement spots. It makes you adjust the worker placement spots out here. I'll spill this much, by giving you cards that overlay to change what the board looks like and what the functions of the different worker placement positions are. So, and then some of them are different from that. So I don't want to go any further because I don't want to spoil it for you, those of you that want to maybe discover all those differences in the continents on your own. But every continent has a different feel. So it's kind of like 7 games in one. Now, granted, the Green Gully one is a very introductory tutorial type, but you've really got those other 6 that are quite different. And again, you can mix those up so that the events come out randomly. If you just play it basic with the 6, you're only going to see 6, and there's actually 8 in there. So lots of variability. And in the changes, the innovation tiles, that creates such variability and such a unique feel to the game. I think that is just tremendous. That's the first thing, probably the biggest thing that I really love about this Viticulture World cooperative expansion. The second thing is, I do love cooperative games, but this one, you really have to cooperate tightly because it's worker placement. So, I mean, not just because of that, but especially because of that, because normally you think of worker placement as, okay, I'm going to go here and block you so you can't. And yeah, I want that function, but I also just don't want you to go there. But now you've got to coordinate. Well, we both need to go there. So how can we? Well, I also both need to go here. So especially when you have a big group, one of the times we played with 5, that was a really trickier constantly. Well, could we meet here and then I can give you this card and you can give me that card and I'll give you some money if we meet here, and you can only meet there if one of you sends a grande worker where someone else's worker's at. So there's just a ton of cooperation. You have to cooperate to be successful. Now again, in that promo Green Gully, you're probably going to win if you have any experience with this kind of a game. But even in the other Green Gully, my wife and I played that one as a 2-player game, and we beat it, but on the very last worker placement. Otherwise, we would have lost. So yeah, it's even kind of tricky. In fact, the reason they came out with that Green Gully promo is because Jamie Stegmaier and the developers, the designers, Mihir, Shah, and Francesco Testini, they found that the Green Gully original was kind of hard for a tutorial. So, and then this Asia one that I just played this morning, I didn't win. My final state was I was 1 shy of winning on the influence, and I was 3 shy on victory points. Now, if I had been a little either luckier or smarter, and it could, depending on when it might have happened, if I would have used one of my multi-position ones, like if I would have put this one here so that I could have sent 2 workers there to play blue cards, I would have won. But I didn't. So I could only send 1 worker there, and I had to send my grande worker here for another reason. So like, there's just so much cooperation. Even when you're playing solo, there's so much to think about. I love the cooperation. I love that it's not going to be highly susceptible to quarterbacking unless you just have a player that just demands to be in control, because there's so much to think about and there's so many different ways. And especially at 3 to 5 players, that you're going to have to be coordinating so many different actions. I think it helps kind of not, if someone wants to quarterback, they could, but I feel like this one's going to be not as susceptible as some other cooperative games. So that's another thing that I really like about Viticulture World. The third thing is that if you like viticulture and you've played viticulture, it does maintain that same basic play. It's worker placement. You're still trying to get the fields and the grapes and the wines and fulfilling the orders. They've just added a few more spots to the board, and then they've got these events. So it's turning it cooperative, and it's just like adding an expansion, but it still feels like viticulture. And so if you like viticulture, which I really do, that's a big key for me. I like viticulture, and it still feels like viticulture. It just made it cooperative. So those are the 3 things I really love about Viticulture World. Now, what are the 3 things either I didn't care for or I could see other players not liking? So number 1 is a real nitpick, but I like the way these hats work, but they do make them top heavy, and most of them don't stay on very well. So if you try to pick it up by the hat, it often comes off. You can't necessarily easily see what color it is. If you're looking down from above, it's some of the colors aren't as different, and with the hats on, it makes it even harder to distinguish them. Very nitpicky. They're really cute, and I understand why they're using them. I couldn't really think of an alternate solution to that. If they were a little more snug, I think that would take part of it, but yeah. A very minor complaint, but something that we did notice, that the hats fell off or caused the meeple to tip over fairly frequently. Not a big deal. Doesn't affect gameplay, really. The second one, at higher game player counts, it's going to take some time. Now, granted, when we played with 5, it was the first time any of us had played Viticulture World. We had all played Viticulture a lot, so we were very familiar with Viticulture, but none of us had played this. And with 5 players, it took us 3 hours. Now, maybe it was because we were being really cautious. We really wanted to win. In the end, we didn't have any trouble winning, but yeah, so I think that if you want a quick, snappy game, this may not be for you at higher player count. So that's something to consider, a possible con depending on what you're looking for in a game. And then the third thing that's maybe on the negative side, if you like cooperative games where you can go in knowing you're probably going to succeed most of the time, this isn't the one. You have to be pretty spot on, and there's a little bit of luck here and there because, like I said, there was really no way for me to know that I was going to need to place that tile in that spot to be successful in the last turn. And there might have been other things, other ways I could have come around it earlier in the game. But it's tough. I mean, this one is easy, and I didn't get it done. And I've played Viticulture a lot, and I've now played this Viticulture World expansion multiple times. So, but yeah, it's tricky. So if you like when we play Horrified, I think we've played Horrified maybe 20 times, and I think we've maybe lost once. And so if you like that kind of game where it's going to feel tense, and you may not always know for sure that you're going to win, but you're going to win most of the time, this may be a little more challenging than that. I would say you'll probably not win more than half the time unless you're just an excellent Viticulture World Viticulture player, Viticulture World player. It's pretty challenging. So that's, again, a matter of taste. For us, I like that tension. I like it when there's a chance we can win. And like even here, even though I didn't win, I was so close, it came down to basically if I could have played this card, I would have won. And so, yeah, it came down to that. And so I like it when you're always on the cusp. Now, granted, this was easy. On some of the harder ones, it's even tougher, but I'm okay with that. I like that challenge. So those are the 3 things I loved, and 3 things that either I didn't care for, I could see maybe other people not enjoying about Viticulture World. Now on to some recommendations, other games that might be of interest to you if this one sounds good or you've played Viticulture World and you know you like it. First up, Orleans Invasion. Now, Orleans is a great worker placement Euro. I love it. One of my favorite games. Invasion has multiple scenarios in it, and one of them allows you to play cooperatively. So it's another cooperative Euro. If that's what you're looking for, I think similar complexity, similar difficulty. This is a good comparison, I think, in my opinion, Orleans Invasion to Viticulture World. Secondly is one that I just received, so I haven't even had a chance to play it. But I think in terms of being a Euro and cooperative, it's one that I purchased specifically because we've loved this one so much, and that's Concordia Solitaria. I love Concordia, so does my wife. But thinking after we played this and realized, man, Viticulture Cooperative is even better than Viticulture's competitive, in our opinion. We love Concordia. Could Solitaria make it even better? Now, I can't say for sure, but if that's what you're looking for, I would say give it a shot. Plus, it's a pretty cheap expansion, and it allows you to play Concordia solo. Kind of like this, you can play solo or cooperative. So I would urge you to check that one out. Another one is actually arriving tomorrow. So again, another one I haven't played, but it's brand new, and it's one that I can't wait to try because I've had so much fun with this one. I think it's going to be more complex than this, and that is On Mars Alien Invasion. I love On Mars, competitive game, but with this new Alien Invasion expansion, which I can't wait, arrives tomorrow, it gives you that cooperative feel, and I think it's going to be a deeper, heavier game than this even, but allowing you to play that cooperative. And there just aren't that many, at least in my experience, and granted, I've only really done a deep dive into gaming these last couple of years, but I haven't seen a lot of Euro cooperative games, and so that's what I'm trying to give you. Think about these. Check out these other ones, and as I play some of these other ones, hopefully I can put some reviews out for them as well. And then I'm going to give you a fourth one because so many of these I haven't played, and it's a game where I haven't played the base game or the expansion, but I want to share with you Maracaibo, The Uprising is another one where if you like Maracaibo, if you like Alexander Pfister's game, and you think, hey, I want to play it cooperative, the Uprising expansion allows you to do that. So normally, I don't give recommendations unless I've played it already, but for On Mars, Concordia, and Orleans, those are 3 of my top 20 games of all time. And so I know the base games I love, and I think the cooperative game is just going to boost it up that much. So now, final rating and review. You can tell by this review, I love Viticulture World. I loved Viticulture, and this I think is even better because I like cooperative games so much. Now, if I'm giving this one a rating, it's a 9 out of 10. There's a few games I like better, and there's a few little nitpicks, but I could see it even rising once I've had a chance to play all 7. I haven't played all 7 yet of the continents, and I haven't played any of the continents multiple times. And so I've just been kind of working my way through, and I've played Green Gully, both versions, and some others, but until I played all 7 and played them a second time through, if the variability that I suspect is there for my kind of early on with just a handful of gameplays, if that follows true to be as strong as I think it's going to be, I could see this moving up even higher. But for right now, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 after a handful of plays. And this is one that I don't ever see leaving my shelf. So hopefully this review was helpful for you just to get a feel for the game and hear a little bit about, after a handful of plays, what my thoughts are. I would have loved to have played a little bit more before the review, but we're moving out of our house this week, and then we're going to be traveling for 7 weeks, and so I needed to get this one out before that so that you could hear a little bit about my thoughts. And I have played it quite a few times already, so hopefully that's helpful. If you enjoyed it, I'd love it if you give it a thumbs up, and it'd be terrific if you'd choose to subscribe to the channel. If you have questions, leave those down below in the comments. I'd be happy to answer them. If you've played this and there's something else that you loved or didn't like about the game, leave that in the comments below as well. As always, thanks for watching. This is Billy, Indiana, signing off.